I did not author, and I did not authorize, and none of the board signed this. But what happened is it brought to light the development that Mr. Courthouse has been initiating for years. And in saying that, this development has the proper channels to go through. So for those of you that have commented that this is a done deal, it is not. This is just the beginning. And what this letter did is brought to light this beginning so that everybody can weigh in. In saying that, I have done research, and right now, Illinois Department of Natural Resource has Mr. Courthouse's development and is doing their research at the Springfield level. That report, when it's finished, will come down to Monroe County for its review. What happens from there, as Chairman Elmore has stated, it's going to go through the natural process of any other development. So therefore, it will go to the planning, the zoning will get the application. It will go through the Planning Commission. And I have met with Chairman Carlisle Miller, who is in attendance today. When wind farms came on the horizon, it's the Planning Commission that initiated at least an 18-month painstaking research to come up with the ordinance that is on file right now with the county. And although I have limited copies, hard copies today, if you leave your email, we'll make sure that you get a copy of this through the zoning office. So they have painstakingly gotten this done, and it was approved in 2012. From there, the Planning Commission, and that is an Open Meetings Act. We have a 15-member board that meets the first Thursday of every month. This will be publicized when and if that application for Mr. Courthouse comes through. From there, then, the recommendation is given, and it goes to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a 5-member board, and they usually meet the first, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday of the month. That also is a public meeting and will be posted. So there's several steps that need to be initiated officially before it even comes to any kind of fruition. This is still in its initial stages, so this is not a done deal by any means. What this letter did was bring to light the development, and we are now all weighing in. What I would ask with the Chairman Elmore is that we limit our conversation to 1 minute. Mr. Courthouse is here to talk to this about this development, and we be respectful and courteous, because I know there's a lot of emotions running what I'm reading through here, a lot of emotions running high. So again, please let's be respectful and courteous. And I thank you.
Mr. Tobias, would you like to come up?
Yes. Thank you.
Good morning, both of you. How are you doing? We'll see how this works out here.
Obviously, you know I'm Joe Courthouse. This is Garth Thunchuk. Garth is a partner that we've established to help put together the wind farm. And after I read some statements, and Garth will talk a little bit about North Renew and their role in their area of expertise. So, first of all, thank you for letting us be here today. And thanks for clarifying, because I think there is a lot of misinformation now. First and foremost, you all are aware that this is not a new project. We began the journey 11 years ago in March of 2007. Since that date, we have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars performing the necessary work to determine whether the area is suitable for a wind farm. There have been no secret meetings or hidden agendas. I've been open and honest throughout the entire process and have done my best to learn the pluses and minuses of our wind farm. I ask that all of us look at the facts and issues related to wind energy, that we are honest in our comments and reporting. Then everyone can make decisions on the facts, not on misinformation and emotion. I ask that everyone be objective in reviewing all of the information that we will continue to learn as we go through this process. Everyone is entitled to their opinions, for and against, and I respect that right. I know this project is good for Southern Illinois, and that is why I'm working so hard to build a wind farm. I know some people will not be happy no matter what we do, but if all of us look honestly and objectively at all the studies and the information, we will come to the conclusion that this project is good for our area. Clean energy is a good thing. Our project will overall be good for our community, our environment, job creations, schools, landowners, and all the taxing districts who will benefit from our wind farm. We all want more cell phones, cloud storage, bandwidth, cleaner operating vehicles, and cleaner air. Wind farms help make all those things a reality. Why here? Mainly because the transmission lines are already in place to transmit power from the two power plants just across the river in Missouri and the Prairie State and Baldwin power plants here in Southern Illinois. Our wind speeds are lower than most areas that have wind farms. But with the transmission lines already in place, we can get electricity to market by connecting to existing lines without building new transmission lines. That too is better for the environment and for our region. We are all aware of the shutdown of a large portion of the Baldwin power plant and the devastating impact that is having on jobs, schools, and taxing districts. Our wind farm will help offset some of those losses while creating clean, renewable energy. I'd like to refresh everyone's memory as to the work we've completed and the steps we have taken to evaluate the potential of our wind farm. I started the process to determine if there was enough wind speed to support a single wind turbine to be installed on top of Rock City to help offset the demand charges for the electric usage in the freezer. In 2007, I hired a wind consultant from Iowa to evaluate the site and tell me if he thought there was enough wind in our area to support a wind turbine. The initial review was yes, that it could work. In December of 2007, we hired Rich Simon to guide us through the process of measuring wind speeds and determining if we could build a wind farm. Rich has sited thousands of turbines throughout the United States and thousands abroad. Rich has led many studies in wind energy for government agencies and utility companies. Rich has a stellar reputation, is well respected and trusted by government and industry leaders. Rich is a professional who has helped us evaluate our project. With Rich's guidance and direction, we installed our first Met Tower over 10 years ago in May of 2008. The Met Tower measures wind speeds and directions. The towers are connected by cell and computers and record and send data continuously. We determined the wind speeds are lower in our area than most other areas that house wind farms, but the speeds were still adequate to continue our studies. Rich suggested we purchase a SODAR machine to help measure wind speeds at higher elevations than the Met towers could measure. I purchased the SODAR equipment in June of 2009, have been receiving information from it for over 9 years. After collecting information from the Met Tower and SODAR equipment, I was seeing consistencies that I felt was needed to continue with our wind farm. In May of 2010, the wind studies continued to look favorable, so I began the next steps to move our project forward. I began meeting with several turbine manufacturers including Vestas, General Electric, Repower, Nordic, Siemens, and others. I also met with tower-based manufacturers, Mortenson, a company who builds wind farms, Pinta Engineering on foundation designs, and others. The purpose of those meetings was to discuss foundations, collection of the electricity, underground lines from our farm to the transmission lines, roads, access, needs to start the evaluation of what we could need to do to build our project. While going through this process from 2007 to 2010, I had met with the county board, some landowners, Village of Almar officials, school superintendents, and just about anyone I could to share my vision and desire to build our wind farm. During those conversations, many questions came up that I could not answer. Questions about noise, flicker, vibrations, do turbines hurt crops, how much farm ground will we lose, how close together will they be, to name a few. We had not yet done all the studies to answer some of the questions, so I suggested we all go to an operating wind farm and see for ourselves. In July 2010, we toured the Indiana Hoosier Wind Farm in Benton County, Indiana. We chartered a bus and we took as many as we could comfortably fit for a very long day trip to see a working wind farm. I wanted to learn, allow everyone to ask questions, see the turbines in operation. We met with local government officials and operators of the wind farm and the turbines manufacturer. We also drove by and saw numerous other wind farms on the way to Benton County. Everyone, without exception on the trip, made favorable comments about the wind farm and had a very positive educational experience based upon the facts in a real live operation. We were all able to see and learn exactly what a wind farm is. Again, there's never been any behind-the-scenes activities or secrets on this project. In September of 2010, after the responses from the elected officials, landowners, and others, we decided to add an additional Met tower on a site closer to where we will build the wind farm. The Met tower that's at Salt Lake Point now on the O'Neill property, we put there because that's where we wanted to put the first turbine. But it's too closely surrounded by trees and too close to the wildlife, so it's not a suitable site for a turbine. So we moved the Met tower over to property that's closer to where we want to be. I met with the planning and zoning folks to obtain the permit to install the second Met tower. The wind information from this site verifies the speeds from the first tower and the SONAR system. The permit was granted and the tower was installed in December of 2010. In the fall of 2010, we took the next major step, which was hiring Tarragon consultants to begin another critical portion of our evaluation of the wind farm. Tarragon performed numerous studies on the areas we will build our wind farm. Tarragon consulted with U.S. Fish and Wildlife as well as the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. Tarragon performed fatal flaw analysis, geotechnical desktop review of the area, pre-construction avian survey, post-construction bat surveys, conclusions and comparisons to other wind farms. Part of the work that was performed by Tarragon included installing bat detecting systems. This system determined what types of bats as well as how many bats and what elevation they were flying. Tarragon actually did some mist netting and captured a brown bat, installed some kind of microchip on it, and came back to determine that the bat was migrating through and wasn't roosting in the area. They were in the field every season of the year and took studies over a full year. Tarragon completed their work in 2012 and found no environmental reasons to not build the wind farm. In 2012, we began the process of working with county officials to establish wind ordinances. On April 5th, 2012, the county held a public forum at the courthouse. Persons for and against the wind farm spoke and were given the opportunity to provide input and comments. I didn't like everything in the ordinance, but I felt it was very detailed and covers everything from pre-construction to decommissioning at the end of the project's lifetime. 2012 to 2018, we continued to complete wind studies, relocated the SONAR equipment several times to make sure the wind speeds were consistent. I also met with various contractors, engineers, manufacturers, and continued my learning about wind farms. I met with the head of the Illinois Community Colleges to discuss the possibility of them purchasing our green energy. We also discussed adding classroom space on our wind farm so we can teach and train students how to work on turbines. We're exploring the possibility of teaching how wind farms work, how to monitor the entire operation from classrooms anywhere in the state, and having environmental class studies on site on a permanent basis to teach everyone about the impact, both positive and negative, from the wind farm. In 2017, I brought in North Renew Energy as a partner to help me with all of the things that I don't have the expertise and experience to perform. North Renew has a lot of experience and a good track record of getting power purchase agreements, financing agreements, and operators on board. They also understand the MISO application process, have supervised construction of wind farms. They have the experience and knowledge that I don't have to make certain we complete the project properly. In closing, we've invested a lot of money in the wind farm, and we acknowledge we still have a lot more work to do before we can start construction. We've hired SCI environmental consultants to update all of the environmental studies, and basically we have to start over because of the length of time from 2010 to 2018. They've completed the desktop studies, they've met with IDNR, they've met with Fish and Wildlife, and we are going through that process as we speak. They will be out doing site work starting now and going on for the next year. While completing our updated environmental work, we're meeting with landowners and working on ground leases. We will then send that information to Rich Simon to site or lay out our turbines. Again, we have a long way to go before we are complete. We think the project is great for the environment, the taxpayers, the schools in Southern Illinois. The letter of support is just that. I think the last time I was before the county board, you folks asked me how the process was going and stated you would like to see it move forward. The schools have expressed support for the concept of our wind farm, and we would like your support as we move forward. We're not asking you to approve the wind farm, we're asking you to approve the concept of the wind farm and what we think are the positive economic impacts and the positive environmental impacts of our farm. With that, I'll turn over to Garth.
Yeah, my name is Garth, as in Garth Brooks. Last name
You
is
don't sing as good as you, man.
What's that?
You don't sing as good as
Oh, we're not even close, believe me. I've been in the power business for about 30 years now. Last 15 years committed to the renewable energy industry. My firm, North Renew Energy, is made up of professionals focused on the development side of the business, which is essentially, as Joe had focused on, permitting, overseeing environmental studies, the construction oversight, pre-construction oversight. And right now, we are involved in about 1,000 megawatts of projects throughout the United States, primarily in Colorado, Texas, Pennsylvania, and of course, Illinois. Started the firm about 2 years ago, and we have well over 100 years of experience focused on all aspects of project development and construction. And our goal together is to make sure that we follow all the ordinances as required, that we together make sure the landowners are very, very happy, make sure everybody understands the economic benefits, and if at all possible, satisfy 100% of the stakeholders in the project. And even right here, it's going to be virtually impossible to satisfy 100% of everybody's desires, but that's our objective. And to do it within the ordinance and within the policies that exist within Monroe County. It'll take probably another 1.5 to 2 years to get through development. We are eyeball deep into bringing on turbine manufacturers, construction parties that, by the way, will take on local subcontractors. We will enter into job fairs to establish as much local job content as we possibly can. And in the end, we're going to be providing substantial economic benefit to the county, both from the county level and the school level, which is very important to understand. And many of the places we are right now are focused on the economic benefits, and in many places it saves the schools when we come in and put these wind turbines up. So, as Joe and I have said, and we've always said to everybody, we're here collaboratively. We're not here to hide anything. We will present everything to everybody so that we can satisfy as many people as we possibly can.
The only thing I might interject at this time is two words that you probably should incorporate, if approved. If approved.
Absolutely.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, if approved, because it has to go through the normal channels once the application is presented to the zoning office. Okay?
I'm just curious, I know that Baldwin Power Plant had 204 jobs at one time, then they shut down 2 units there. And the annual payroll was $24 million. How will it affect Baldwin down? I know the company that owns that is closing plants all over the place.
Well, I think the impact for Baldwin is we'll be able to generate electricity that will replace that is being shut down by Baldwin.
So how is this going to affect our economic in this city? Where's the dollars going to go, and how much people are going to work on these? Once they're finished, how many people will be employed on the in that grid then?
Well, there will probably be 15 to 20 permanent jobs related to this,
Okay.
but there will be thousands of construction jobs, and the majority of those will all be local. And again, I think the real benefit is that it is clean energy.
Right, yeah.
Nobody wants it in their backyard, but everybody wants it.
Right.
So if these are the initial Terracon studies, and again, Fish and Wildlife, IDNR, we've got communications from all of them. We're making sure that we do everything legally and properly, and
I know one thing people say, well, it might kill some eagles down there, but I was driving back from down south last week, and a bird flew in front of my vehicle, and I got home to pull a bird out of the grill. So and I see a lot of squirrels and deers and raccoons along the way. So it's natural. They can run into anything. Illinois has tons of coal. I mean, millions of tons, and supposedly we have more energy in that coal than Saudi Arabia has in their oil. The problem is it's full of sulfur. So until they can figure it out, it's going to stay in the ground. So apparently this might be a way to go around it.
One of the comments that was brought up is they said we were going to clear cut the bluffs.
Yeah.
And
I don't think so. By looking at this map.
well, we're not going to do anything to the bluffs.
No.
All of that wooded area around the bluffs, we don't plan to do anything with. We've actually put on our map a black outline around the bluffs as a buffer area in between the wooded habitats and the farm ground that the turbines will be located on. So.
Do you mind taking that map and maybe just passing it around?
Sure.
If I could just add a couple points. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to replace all those Baldwin employees. I think everybody needs to understand that. Right. These are projects that pretty much operate on their own. We're going to probably employ some high-tech folks, hopefully very locally, and maybe even have to train them ourselves. But these, don't need the kind of maintenance that Baldwin would require.
Right. Yeah.
If I could, I too have done some research and speaking with people that are very knowledgeable. And one of the things that I have learned is that green energy is on a grid is the first to be purchased. You have carte blanche over any kind of produced energy. So when I say that is if we have energy lines that are full at this point, green energy that comes on may exacerbate a problem of what we're seeing down at Baldwin, which is plants being shut down because of the nature of Curry State, and at that time it was Dynergy, which has now been bought out. So, but I do want to make it clear that green energy is the first on a grid to be purchased. So,
if I could just make one point, it's a very good point, Richard, but you have to remember that the coal facilities and nuclear facilities are base load, so they go first. There is points in time when you may have a constrained transmission system and wind is actually curtailed. First, because you never want to actually curtail baseload, because it's a very important component of meeting all of our power needs. For instance, in Texas, there's a substantial amount of wind in the Panhandle of Texas that never makes it into the grid, because the transmission lines will not satisfy that movement of power. What's interesting where we are, because places like Baldwin are shutting down, there is a large capacity available in the transmission lines.
Well, when you talk about peak load and things like that, it's my understanding, again, in my limited research, that the winds that are actually of good variable speed to power come in an off-peak time, which is going to be usually from 4 a.m. until midday. So there again, that's not the peak load, but that would be the energy that's purchased, because again, green energy comes in first on the grids. So,
And again, I think what I would ask is that you'll get the studies, you'll get all the facts,
right.
and then you can make your decision based on those facts. Because some of the things you're saying, I don't totally agree with. And again, the economics of the transmission lines that are here, they're already ugly, they're already there, and they are moving electricity, are what make this possible. The transmission lines that we'll have to build, or the collection lines that will tie into those, will just let them work more efficiently and help that situation. It certainly won't be a negative. It'll be a positive for energy in our part of the state, in our part of the Midwest.
Joe, I think we're all here not so much to worry about if you're going to make money on this project or if it's a successful project, but how does it affect our county? I think most of these people are here because of our environment and their concerns on their environment. So the question is, we're going to have to make some trades. I mean, that's how it is, or not. But what I'm interested in is what the revenue effect will be, for example, Valmar School District for the county, and how that would, affect the county as far as environmental, as far as these people's backyards, what it means to them. I went to all those meetings, been through the whole process, and to be honest with you, I'm not opposed to wind energy at all. But, I don't live there. I wouldn't mind having one in my backyard, to be quite honest, but a lot of people don't feel the way I do. And today, most of these people are actually against wind power in Monroe County, and it's my job to represent them. And so I need some answers for these people into how it will affect them, what their benefits are, as well as what problems there are with it.
Each turbine will generate approximately $40,000 a year in real estate taxes. I believe that the school districts get about 65% of that.
Okay, Joe, my question on that is that 40,000, is that set, or is it how much wind power you make? Is it by the amount of generation, or is it a set amount?
They're assessed based on the cost of the turbine.
Oh, really? So 40,000.
Very similar to real estate.
40,000 a year? And you got 50 of them, right?
Our initial design that was done by Siemens a number of years ago came up with an array of 43 turbines. A later design that Repower put together had 50 turbines on it. We don't have a layout complete. We won't have that complete until we get all the land leases in place, and then the manufacturer, Rich Simon, will cite them and come up with where he thinks they should be.
So how does the 40,000 get divided?
Just the same way a real estate tax bill gets
So it's
divided.
in Monroe County?
Yes.
Period, right? It comes to
So you're saying this all goes to the school district?
Well, it'd be just like a regular tax bill in your house right now. Whatever percentage goes to the school district will go there. But they're by far the largest portion of our tax.
Okay, well, one thing is, and as the county grows, the growth is in the cities, and the county shrinks, our revenue sinks. So that's would help the county if we got some extra revenue from it.
The thing about the revenue for the schools is it would go in the school district that the wind towers are in, right? So,
Yes.
So Valmar would benefit more.
Belmar is part of the school district.
Right, and Columbia wouldn't really get any revenue from that, not Columbia County revenue, but that's the way it is, right?
Correct.
Appreciate it. You know, I spent some time this weekend looking different things about these energies over, you know, and out west, you know, they got a lot of wide open spaces and they got low sulfur coal out there, so they've got the best of both worlds out there. We're in it with all this coal we're sitting on, we can't use it, so we've got to come up with something. I know in Springfield, when they built a Dolphin power plant, the Sierra Club made them buy wind energy from that wind farm up there by Lincoln, so it can work together.
Well, the state of Illinois is requiring that 25% of energy come from renewable sources by 2025. I don't know if you believe in global warming or not. I don't know if I believe in global warming or not.
Sometimes I think so.
But there, you know, the trend and the need is pretty much documented and out there, and everyone is leaning toward renewable, clean energy. And I think we offer that.
Well, you know, one thing, I was looking at this one power plant somewhere at 935 megawatts, and if you would use solar panels, you'd take 213,000 acres to come up with that much energy. So this is a little different story here, because it's just going straight up in the air.
Joe, is there a reason for 450-foot high wind towers?
The wind speeds, again, are not as great here as they are in other parts of the state or other parts of the country. So we need that elevation to get the wind speeds.
What will be the closest tower to Bluff? And if I'm driving down Bluff Road, can I see that wind tower?
You know what? I doubt it. If you're on Bluff Road, I mean, you really can't see what's on top of the bluff. If you're in Missouri,
Okay.
It's all the natural gas. You don't need to.
You're not recognized, sir. You're not recognized. We'll get some time if you want to talk.
again, these things are going to be very visible. I'm not saying that, but if you're on the bottom of the bluff, driving on Bluff Road, you probably will not see them because they're going to be a mile to 2 miles off of the bluff, away from the wooded habitat areas for the wildlife. All of that area is remaining in place and none of it will be disturbed.
You can't really say exactly where they're going to be because you have to get landowner permission and you have to do a study on wind within the system. And so the location is done by a computer or a program, I'm sure. So there's really no way to really draw this thing out so that we could see exactly what footprint it's going to be, except the question is that definitely the closest one to the edge of the block?
That buffer line that's on
That's
that map is...
That's permanent. It's good.
Okay. All right, listen, here, we have a 13-page resolution on the wind farms. So if you want to get a copy, you put your name and email down there, and they'll email one to you. And very shortly, I'm going to open up some questions here. Anything else, Joe?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, I'm going to read one of the emails that came in here from an engineer. He works down at the Baldwin Power Plant. He says, I'm a resident of Monroe County, and I'm writing in regard to the recent news reports of Joe Pia's intent to develop 50 turbine wind farm in our county. First, I'd like to address the topic I'm most concerned about, the power to be generated by the proposed wind farm. As an engineer at the Baldwin Energy Complex in neighboring Randolph County, I've seen firsthand how this business has changed over the 32 years I've been employed by the company. Today, due to the energy glut in our area, Baldwin has idled one of its 3 units and has reduced its workforce from 255 down to 150 in the last 2 years. Its financial impact to the region has been cut by $40 million. This energy glut was caused by 2 events. First, the completion of the Prairie State Power Plant has created what is called congestion on power lines in the region. This congestion then creates increased charges for our power to get to the market. Amron's solution to this problem was to build the Rush Island to Baldwin 345 kV power line, but this only served to exacerbate the problem, as it allowed the Rush Island to push their power into Baldwin. Power in our region generally flows from west to east. Here is a link. There's a link on 164 pages if you want to read it. MISO is the system operator responsible for the local power transmission grid, and I would question whether the developer has sought approval of the MISO for the interconnection. As a wind farm project is intended to put its power onto this line, it will do nothing but increase the congestion, further threatening the Baldwin plant economy. It will very likely that any potential economic benefit to the region from the wind farm would only be gained at the loss of the Baldwin power plant, including its employees and surrounding communities. Please note that I am not voicing this as an authorized representative company, but simply as a resident and interprofessional. Second, I urge you to carefully examine the economics of the wind farm proposal. The production tax credit, which has been a major financial driver for many wind projects, is expiring and will be zero by the time this project is reportedly expected to complete in 2020. Also, projected power prices continue to decline, putting even more strain on power generators of all kinds. And here's a link to the wind power market study written for the U.S. Department of Energy. The takeaway statement from the report, wind capacity additions, especially after 2020, remain deeply uncertain. In my opinion, this project is unlikely to be a financial success. So anyway, he's reading, there's more in here, but I'll stop there. So right now, I'm going to open up some people to say a few things. You're going to state your name. You're going to be very polite. You're not going to, no outbursts, because if we do, you have to ask the sheriff to remove you. The lady in the front row here asked earlier. State your name, ma'am.
My name is Penn Dalbach. I'm a citizen of Monroe County. I'm also a member of the Illinois Nature Preserves Commission. As a member of the commission, I have committed to memory large portions of the Illinois Natural Areas Preservation Act, which was passed in 1965. I also want to compliment the commissioners because at our January meeting, we gave preliminary approval to a nature preserve on land that is managed by the county and the Board of Trustees of one of our cemetery associations. You lived not just the spirit, but the facts of the Illinois Natural Areas Preservation Act. And I compliment you for that, as I did in letters to the editor in January. But I also want to remind you, the Act mandates a process for local governments, that all due deliberations be done, and I know that this proposal is now undergoing consultation with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. I also would like to ask that the commissioners remain neutral. As Ms. Kerber said, this process needs to work its way through regular order. Signing a letter, such as Mr. Courthouse has presented, puts a pretty heavy thumb on that process.
We didn't sign that.
I would beg that you do not do so, but let the process play out. Thank you.
Anybody else? Right back here. Right, the red hat. State your
My name
name,
is
sir.
Pat Kelly. I'm a retired building engineer, operator, also of power plants. And I can tell you for a fact, we've spent millions and millions of dollars trying to eliminate air pollution. And we can't meet the standards. And that's why I'm all for the windmills and the solar panels. We need them. The money to be made off them. It's renewable energy. And we got more and more people buying electric cars. We're going to be using more and more electric on the grids. Therefore, like I said, I'm all for it. And I have no problem. I live down in the river bottoms. I have no problem. They could put a windmill in my backyard. I could care less. I've been to Ireland in 2001. In 2001, I was over in Ireland. Them things made a swishing sound every time they turn. You can go up in northern Illinois right now. You can go up as close as you want to get to them. You'll never hear any sound from them.
Lady right here. State your name, ma'am.
My name's Peggy Belker. I just want to get back to the letter that you got from the engineer from the Baldwin Power Plant, because he did state some pretty important facts, and one of them is MISO, which is the Mid-Intercontinental Connect. And that is what the governance is of all your transmission lines, and they will be the ones that will review Mr. Courthouse's plan to connect to anything that Ameren has, and then they'll have to go through the Ameren process as well. My understanding is that a windmill generates about 34.5 kV, which is sub-transmission, and what they're trying to connect into is a grid-tied 345 kV line, which will be regulated by NERC and FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So there's going to be security and different things like that. So I'm not really going to speak to the aesthetics issues here. My more concern is what is it going to do to Monroe County as far as your infrastructure? And I understand that this is a $200-some-odd million project, which means there's significant investments in it from other people. And does that just cover installing these towers, or is that going to cover installing the roads that are going to be required to build these towers? You are not going to drive the equipment that they have to bring in to build these things on our roads. And if they build those roads, are they going to revert back to the county as ownership to maintain? And then my other question is this $40,000 per tower. That is I guess, an assessment fee. Is that going to change with inflation? Is that going to be assessed on a yearly basis and change? Because, you know, inflation is what, 2.5% to 3%, depending on what year it is. So that money will eventually lose value over a 20-year, 25-year lifetime of what these towers generators generally last, and then they're out. They have to be replaced, and at that point in time, are they going to be replaced, and is there going to be an escrow fund to remove them if this is no longer viable energy? I mean, who could have thought 20 years ago we'd have a phone or something that could take you to the moon, and we had rooms and rooms of computers? That energy may be obsolete in 20 years, but we're still going to have the infrastructure, we're still going to have the towers. Are these things going to be removed? How's that going to be handled? I understand you guys got a fiduciary responsibility to all the people in Monroe County. This is a complicated decision. My thing is look at everything. Don't just get caught up in the environmental aspects and the birds and all that, because that's one aspect of it. This is a lifetime thing in Monroe County. You will own it forever. So once it's here, and you can't take it back. That's all I'm concerned about.
Okay. Carlo, have you got anything to say on that? No? Okay.
No comment.
Okay, no comment. All right. Any other questions here? Over here, sir.
Yeah.
State your name.
My name's John Elder. I'm a citizen of Monroe County. I actually work for Prairie State Energy Company. So I'm going to clear some things up. You can burn Southern Illinois coal cleanly. We're doing it right now. We're probably the #1 cleanest coal-fired power plant in the world right now. So I'll clear that up right now. You can burn this Southern Illinois coal, and you can do it cleanly. Secondly, this is a taxpayer-subsidized industry. Solar, wind. When these subsidies dry up, what are we going to be left with? We're going to be left with the eyesore that's sitting up there. Thirdly, I'm not entirely convinced that these wind farms have a large impact on lowering carbon emissions. I would, in fact, invite anybody to find scientific, concrete data on the reduction of carbon emissions from wind farms. So far, all we have is sales pitches from turbine manufacturers with Chinese parts. That's really all I want to bring to light.
When was your plant built?
It was built, started coming out of the ground 2010, 2009-ish. We went commercial 2012, 2013.
Do you know where the Coffee Energy Center is?
What's that?
The Coffee Energy Center?
Yes, coffee up north.
That was built in 1960 something, and it's still running. It's producing clean energy. They put a lot of money into that.
Yes, yeah.
Very good.
Updated your scrubbers.
Right, right.
Baldwin was built in 1970.
Yeah, this lady over here really cleared some information about Baldwin too. That's the major nail in the coffin for Baldwin is the congestion. Do our move where we all combine, and these turbines are just going to add to that congestion, and you guys will not see a decrease on your power bill.
Thank you. Anyone else? Lady right here. State your name.
Yeah, sorry, Bethany Cromie with the Monroe County Independent. Sorry, Ed. I just had a question for Mr. Capayas, and this may be something that is now outdated. At one point, had you mentioned installing some sort of gas or coal backup on the wind turbines?
No, I don't think that's
That's not happening for sure. Okay, and my other question, in terms of the jobs aspect, so just to clear up, you said long-term permanent jobs will be 15 to 20 jobs, and so the number that Mr. Kipping had mentioned was like 1.3 million in job revenue. You're saying, is that accurate?
Well, that was for laborers only. I believe.
Laborers, like over
It
the
would
first
be
6 months, maybe?
A lot more than that. The project's over $200 million.
The project, okay, in cost. But in terms of jobs created in Monroe County, we're talking maybe over the first 6 months, we'll see some initial labor jobs, revenue for, okay. But long-term, we're talking maybe 15 to 20, right? And then when we talk about clean energy, does that factor in the potential carbon footprint created to make the elements of the wind turbines? Are they made out of, what are they generally made out of? Carbon steel, or what are they made out of?
Towers are steel.
Just steel, okay. So do they weigh that in when they consider it clean energy? What it cost, what it takes to make the items, or
I can't tell you how the clean energy people will review.
how they weigh that back and forth? Okay, the fossil fuels used. Okay, and in your studies, are they weighing in things like sinkholes in our general area and the limestone bluffs, how they fail under heavy weight and things like that? Garth, I'm not sure, and I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your last name, or I would call you by your first. But has your company done any major projects on limestone bluffs?
We have not.
Okay, that was just something I was, considering, so, all right, thank you.
But the answer to your question on foundations is yes, we've had geotechnical companies that have reviewed those.
Sinkholes around here, I always worry, you never know what's going to.
And we're not going to go near sinkholes.
Right.
And we're not going to go on top of the caves where the little shrimp lives and whatever. We're not, that's the whole purpose of doing all the environmentals.
Right.
Is to determine all the areas that we need to stay away from. So we don't cause negative impacts.
You know what, that brings me to one other question. We've been concerned a lot with the clear cutting. So you are saying from the map that you passed around, you won't need to cut trees down. You won't need to do any clear cutting or deforestation?
We're not going to be clear cutting along the bluffs. If we have to build a road that goes from one turbine to the other, not along the bluffs.
Not along the bluff. You're going to do that.
There may be some trees that have been cut down to create a road or something. But no, we're not going to clear cut areas. The areas that we're looking at are basically pretty much all in corn or beans right now.
Okay, and it's of course contingent upon whether the landowners will agree to lease and right of way.
Correct.
Okay.
Sir, back there, state your name.
Alex Knoll. Curious what you mean by along the bluffs. That's a general term, means no distance at all. Please define.
Well, the map that's going around has a buffer area on it.
To me, my definition would be along the bluffs. It's at the top of the bluffs. It's 600 feet tall. The tower's 550. Is that correct? And the blade length is. The blade goes above the tower, which is measured at 550 feet, correct?
Correct.
So what's the actual height?
It's probably, tip of the blade's probably going to be in the 600 foot range.
Yeah, at most 600 feet. At most 550 feet with put a tip exposed. No. The tip of the blade will be at most 600 feet. Okay, 600 feet, 6-story tall building. Another question. We keep talking about this revenue for schools. This is revenue that's basically the same as, what, a single-family home, maybe less?
Do you know any single-family homes that pay $50,000 a year in taxes, or $40,000 a year?
Guaranteed. You have an offset of buildings that won't be built around those, ever. I mean, you have a turbine over there, nobody's going to build underneath it. And there's already a setback law. The setback is 1.25, the height of the building. So if it's 550 feet, we have a setback of 6 1/4, something like that, 630 feet. So you can put a turbine 630 feet from my property line. So that whole section of my ground now has to be within 630 feet of your turbine. I mean, I think that's the way I read it. The government of Australia recommends a 1.5 kilometer buffer between turbine blades to offset the noise disturbance, the sleep apnea, all these kinds of, or sleep deprivation, all these things that happen from the low frequency noise that not isn't measured, you don't hear it, you feel it. Just like some kid driving down the street with a bass booming too loud, you feel it. And you feel it in your house, it echoes. And people have abandoned homes all over Iowa, Illinois, because they can't stand the noise, they can't sleep. And this is 1.5 kilometers away. That's a huge area. I mean, you circle that around every single turbine, you're talking about 1.1, 1.2 miles. I mean, you can check my math, I'm not sure, I'm guessing. Also, back to the revenue. So it's $40 million per turbine.
No, $40,000
$40,000
per year
per turbine.
per turbine.
My home taxes have never gone down, but your term is depreciated at a rate of 3% a year and bottom out at 30%. So you'll be paying 30% of $30,000 within, what, 16, 17 years? You'll be paying half in about 12 or 13.
I really doubt that.
You doubt it depreciates?
Let me finish. I own a lot of real estate in Monroe and Randolph County. None of that has ever gone down. These are assessed just like real estate. And as long as they're operating and generating income, I would doubt the taxes would go down. If they're decommissioned and removed and they're gone, they will no longer pay any real estate taxes.
Well, you're a smart man, Joe. The state of Illinois dictates it's 4% depreciation. Our own Article 11, wind energy conversion systems, state 3% a year for us. 3% depreciation rate. That's taxable depreciation rate, correct?
The assessor will assess these based on what he thinks the fair market value of them is, just like he does your home or anything else. So there are.
But there's a depreciation rate schedule. That's the tax payments, right? I mean, I've got equipment at work. We depreciate it. You bet.
This is not, from a tax basis, can be depreciated just like any other piece of equipment. From a real estate tax assessment, normally on real estate, they look at whether it's income producing and whatever the value of that property is. So these are assessed more like real estate than they are equipment.
But it is equipment. I mean, your footprint is not really.
You're asking me about the tax bill, and I'm telling you, the tax bill is assessed like real estate on these turbines.
And we all pay 30% of these turbines that are called leased. That's a federal tax incentive program. Right?
No.
On wind, it's a production tax credit that is a credit that is generated for 10 years as the turbine produces electricity.
You're offset that 30% throughout 10 years.
No, you're talking about an investment tax credit that's 30%. That's primarily applied to solar. For wind, it's called a production tax credit.
What's that?
You generate a credit as electricity is produced. It offsets an investor's taxable income.
One hand to the other, yeah.
I'm just telling you what the reality is with government tax credit.
It's the same thing.
Huh? What's up?
So I get a tax write-off on my value I'm creating. So my sellable material, which is energy, I get a tax credit on that.
The owner does.
Right.
Right.
Okay, I'm saying that would be.
Okay,
Joe.
some questions over here?
No.
Right here, second row. State your name.
My name is Rich Harsey. I'm a member of the county. Been somebody from my family in the county since probably 1850. No one's been here to destroy it. This literally will be in my backyard. Okay, I live right away from where this is going to be. Property values within miles of these things are going to drop 25, 50%.
Amen.
Some homes are not saleable, period, once these things go in. I really do believe that history is going to judge us at this moment. This opens up a can of worms that we cannot close back up. The toothpaste cannot go back in the tube after this one. There will be more. This is only the beginning. Only the beginning. We have plenty of high ground in this county. I am opposed to this. I'm sure he's a fine gentleman. I do not want this in our county. It's a black eye, okay? It's just a black eye. That's my feelings.
Mike. This is the map, and I don't think this has been circulated, showing the placements of these turbines. So we're going to have that passed around also.
But this map
Figure
is
that-
accurate.
That map,
We don't like them in Colorado. We don't need
Go
that.
ahead.
Are you kidding?
This is proposed, this is not. Engineering will decide how to set.
once we have ground leases, siding will be done.
But the other map is the area, right? The other map is
Okay.
accurate.
I was just wanting to share with the,
It's a concept.
It's a concept.
Within that other map that we have.
Okay.
The siding will be finalized once
studies
ground
complete.
leases.
I'll take one question this side over here. Yes, sir?
I have several questions. You said the Illinois Department of Natural Resources and other agencies have conducted tests for damage to avian wildlife. I would propose to look at the Altamont, California sites. The original test, which said 10 to 50, maybe 100 birds a year killed with the golden eagle bald eagle population. Minimum yearly report is 500. That's the company reporting. Okay, that's flat open ground. You're talking about wind shear coming off the cliffs to help your turbines. Good idea. Wind shear goes up the cliffs. It carries the golden eagle, bald eagle, the sparrow, the bats, anything that eats bugs, any kind of other problem, mosquitoes, which we have a problem with in this county, takes them right in the turbine blades. Second problem I have, one of these things catches fire. They do. You can read it all in the news, believe me. Okay? Does Monroe County have the resources to put this fire out? Does Monroe County have the resources to deal with all the exotic metals, potentially toxic chemicals that are going to fall all over our properties? Okay, who's going to clean that up? Who's going to put the fire out? Okay, when one of these turbine breaks, okay, especially when the blades comes off, hey, you guys talking about Lincoln, Illinois? Check them. Okay, they've had a problem. One of these turbine things come off. Boom, hits the ground. Who cleans that mess up? All right. Final problem I'm going to bring up. Aesthetics aside, okay, they're not pretty to look at. We all know that. All right. Aesthetics aside, you're going to put these up in places where animals and people go. Okay, we go there. Yes, we need power. Thank you, Baldwin. Thank you, Prairie State. Thank you, Coffee. Everybody else who makes our power. All right, we appreciate that. I appreciate good, clean energy. Okay. Is this the answer? Can we not put anything else in the river? Can we not find somewhere else to do this? Okay. We have so many different options available to put these things up which damage the environment. You're talking about local jobs. What? Concrete companies and drillers. There's our local. Where's the manufacturing plant here in this county for that? Okay. Where are the people in this county who are going to build that? It takes a half-ton of coal to make a ton of steel. By the paper that he submitted, you're talking about, what, 650 tons of steel to put these towers up? Okay. We're still going to burn coal, folks. It's still going to come from here. You're not going to take it from far away. Okay, where's Siemens located at? Where are all these other companies? I didn't hear a single Monroe County company brought in to build the turbines. By the way, since I forgot to mention the beginning, I'm Philip Abishon. I'm a resident of Monroe County. My family has been for quite some time. I can trace my ancestry back to the 1600s in Kaskaskia. Okay, who we are, where we're from, doesn't matter. We're here now. This is a problem facing us. If we can't get better answers, it's not an excuse to go forward, it's an excuse to stop. That's it.
Have a question over here?
Hi, my name is Emily Land, and I'm from Waterloo as well. I've worked for some state regulatory agencies and some other state agencies, and I just have some comments. As he said in his opening statement, that the land around here is not ideal for wind farms. Where do you see wind farms now? In flat prairies, northern Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, because that's where the wind speed is. So in order to get the wind speed that they want, they have to build 600-foot tall turbines on top of bluffs. It's going to be complete eyesore and ruin our landscape. Secondly, I've seen transportation projects killed because of threatened and endangered species. Like, they completely cancel projects. So I sincerely doubt that there are no threatened and endangered species where he's proposing to build these turbines or the access roads to them. Thirdly, there are 2 National Register listed historic districts in the area around these turbines. And part of the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966, you have to take cultural resources into account whenever state or federal money is, or state or federal permitting is used for a project. So it's going to have to go to the State Historic Preservation Office, and this could be an adverse visual effect to the Maystown Historic District and the French Colonial Historic District around Fort de Chartres. I'm just putting that out there, so if that also theoretically throw some big monkey wrenches in the project. So.
All right. Anyone else here? Lady right here.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Sturm. I live in Monroe. I have a problem where they're being built just because it's limestone and it's karst topography. You may not build on a power wind tower can't build, you can avoid building on sinkholes, but it's not to say that the rain pouring down isn't going to make one sooner or later. Has there been any water flow studies done, or will there be when it's completed?
Again, the karst areas we won't be in. Right now, the overburden on top of the bluffs is an average of about 30 feet, 35 feet from the meetings we've had with our geotechnical people. But there will be soil borings done, and foundations and footings designed to support whatever the weight is and to not have a negative impact on what's below it. They're very small footprints. They don't create a lot of runoff or any of those kinds of issues. But areas that are problems or areas that are not strong enough to support these, we won't be going to those areas. And a couple other comments. MISO, we have reached out to MISO. We have not filed the application yet. We will be doing that within the next year, I guess. But if you go to the MISO maps and you look at our part of the country, it's one of the few areas in the United States that is green on the maps, which means that there is excess capacity. So the comments about not enough capacity and this will make things worse is just not true. And anyone can go to MISO maps and look at them to see that. The Prairie State Power Plant, when it was first built, Peter DeQuattro was the gentleman that was running it, and they actually wanted to partner in our wind farm at that point, and they wanted to take the power from our wind farm to go back to Prairie State to operate the power plant with our clean energy, which would have made it by far the cleanest power plant in the world, and they saw the benefit to that. They ran into some cost issues and other issues during construction, and Mr. DeQuattro is gone, and that kind of fell by the wayside. And lastly, you know, we've been talking to some major data center operators that we hope to draw to Valmar, to the other ground. And one of the things that those big companies all look for is, can they buy renewable energy? And Google and Facebook and Microsoft, all those folks are trying to buy renewable energy. And I think this would be a good marketing part for that if we had clean energy available for them to buy, if they do come. And I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate the civility. I respect everyone's opinions, and we will get all of the facts and all of the information, and we'll answer questions, present all the studies and all the facts as we obtain.
Okay, maybe we'll take a couple more here. A couple more. Lady over here.
My name is Joanne Fricky. I'm from Valmar. I'm just curious as to whether TIFs will be requested for this project.
No, we have not requested.
Thank you.
I'll take one more over here. Back here.
Hi,
Good one,
I'm
yeah.
Schweikart. I actually live in Valmar, Illinois right now, and I had a couple of questions that I wanted to kind of run by you. First of all, one of the things I was questioning was the sound. We're talking 40 to 50 decibels of sound sometimes, and sometimes as high as 70 to 75, which is close to past the point at which people can sleep. How close is the closest one you're talking about by Valmar?
I'm sorry, say that.
What is the closest one to Valmar? What would be the first location? Like, within what kind of area we're talking? To the actual town?
The closest ones would be south of Valmar on the south side of 156. That's where we
started off on
started.
0, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other question,
And-
heading
I'm
down.
sorry, but the rest of your question on the sound?
Yeah.
There will be sound tests done. Each turbine has whatever the decibels come out. There are sound ordinances included in the ordinances that you can review. And again,
But in order to do a sound test, it would have to be built, correct, in that area at that height?
These turbines exist throughout the world, so
Right.
they've got the sound information. And that technology has changed dramatically over the last 10 years.
So when you guys went to Indiana to visit that wind farm, what is the closest town to that area?
You know, I don't remember the name of that town, but it's right there.
Did you talk to any of the residents from that town to see how they felt about?
We did. We actually had a restaurant, lunch at a little restaurant. They were very excited.
And they said we go.
Yeah.
They're very happy. And then another question I have is, you keep saying that the wind strength isn't very high, that the wind speeds are lower. So there's a very good chance that we could get them up there and they would be producing very little. Is that my understanding? That's kind of what I'm gathering, or because the less spinning there is, the louder the turbine is. So we're talking about lower wind speeds. You don't think that's accurate, or
We're going to be implementing, for approval and everything, technology that's appropriate for the wind regime. Right? So what's happened in the last 20 years is massive, rapid advancement of technology that allows appropriate production and economic production in particular wind regimes. They get taller, they get bigger, the rotors get bigger, and allow these turbines to generate in a low wind speed environment.
So then my other question is, I don't know if you're familiar with the roads in Ballmeyer, the streets in Ballmeyer. There's a lot of testing and that went on whenever they were getting ready to put Ballmeyer back on. Engineers came in. Well, as we've seen, even though we did all our research, our roads are creeping, and they don't know why. They bust up driveways, they're constantly getting cut. We have to constantly get tests done on them. SIU has been there to check on them. And it's something to do with kind of where we're sitting, which is directly across from where you guys are wanting to start putting your turbines down South Meyer. You know, you just keep going, you're over on Sea Road. So, although we're going to have a lot of testing, truly, until you put something at that size on there, we're not going to know what it's going to do. This is going to impact the landscape of Monroe County in ways that we have not seen since the flood of '93. Once we get it, we aren't taking it back. It's done. It's there. So I want there to be real close consideration of what we're doing and how it's going to impact the individuals of Ballmeyer who are going to be directly across from it. There's so many times these things don't happen in other parts of the county because they have bigger people. It's more populated. They're not going to say anything. Ballmeyer might be small, but we have a voice. And we're tired of these things continuing to happen to us. So I just want to make sure that we are looking clearly at everything that is going to happen, how it's going to affect us, how the flicker is going to affect us, how this noise is going to affect my kids who are sleeping, they're trying to go to school. How, once they're there, if they're not working, how are we going to get them back down? Those are the things that I care about. And when I came here, I was interested in the jobs, and I wasn't one-sided. I wanted to truly get a true feeling of how this was going to work. But you also have to look at how it's going to impact our lives as individuals living there. How it's going to affect my property. I just built a new house there. You are talking about my property values too, my life. So I just want to make sure that we are.
Again, I urge all of you, if you would like to get a copy of the ordinance that was passed in 2012, a lot of these questions may be answered with the language that's in here. Please make sure you sign the email. I've got 4 hard copies up here to take today. But again, please put your email out there and we'll make
We got more questions.
Monroe?
I can see nothing that will benefit the overall good of Monroe County by taking your time. I've collected taxes in this county for many people for 30 years, and trust what I say. You can give the schools and the county board $40,000 for each one of them. It will not reduce anybody's taxes because it will be gone. Because if you give government money, they're going to spend it, 101% of it. And I know what I speak. It is not in the best interest of this county to accept this project. And you represent this county, not Mr. Courthouse, not his assistant. You represent this county.
All right, we spent about an hour here listening to a lot of different folks. As we say,
A lot of other questions.
as as I say, we spent an hour here listening to your folks talk. This is not the final thing, it's not in the beginning. There's gonna be a lot of hearings, gotta have to do zoning, so this is going to be the end of the questions.
Hey, Bob, maybe we should have Mike give us, fill the audience in on what hearings and things take place and where we're at.
Well, where we're at right now is, and I'm Mike Boss, I'm the zoning administrator. We have not received an application yet from Mr. Capias for this wind farm. There is, if like Commissioner said, sign up for this ordinance and read this ordinance. There is a ton of studies that have to be performed before they will even turn anything into us. Once they turn this into us, this will be a process where we'll have it done in a couple months. We've got to take these studies, try to decipher these studies, it'll go to our boards. If there's studies that we're not sure of, there's mechanisms in there where we can have somebody review these studies and, you know, verify the answers that are in these studies. Once all the information is together, there will be a planning commission meeting, which is a public meeting, which is open for questioning. Public comment will be taken there. That will all be taken into account. It will be reviewed, how it complies with the ordinance. The planning commission will make a recommendation of approving or denying to the zoning board of appeals, which holds a public hearing. And that public hearing will also be open. Everybody who wants to speak would have to be sworn in. And your comments can be heard there too. They will make a decision of yes or no. And that's where the process will go to.
Mike, do we have an estimate right now of this proposed project? It's at IDNR level right now in other states.
I would have no idea.
Okay.
You know, Mr. Capias may have more of an idea than I would.
Are the meetings gonna be during the day when everybody's at work?
No, the meetings are in the evening.
Okay, just wanna make sure.
Yes. The planning commission and zoning board of appeals both start at 7:30 at night.
But the zoning board doesn't have the final say, the commissioners have the final say.
No, zoning board is a special use permit. Zoning board of appeals have final say on zoning.
Joe?
Environmental process is at least another year that we're going through.
Okay, I think we've had, like I say, over an hour here. A lot of people have talked about it. We've had 100 emails come in to our commissioner's office. We've read a lot, all these and so forth. We've talked about it. And as we say, it has to go to the zoning board of appeals and so forth. So, you know, we can't accomplish anything more here. So that, I think this is the end of the meeting here. So thank you for all coming.